Okay. All right. Bathaman, praise the Most High Yah. You always have a tremendous library. She has a tremendous library. I don't know how you store it all, but she has a tremendous library of sermons and music. She has been with this ministry, I think, from the beginning, right, Bathaman? I think you have been, because we started when we were SDAs in 2004. And I think she was here. I think she started close to that. Yeah, I think she was here from 2000. If it wasn't like from the very beginning, it was close because we started in 2004. We were in the SDA church, and she was here then. I think she was here then, and then that goes back 15 years. And what year was it you got baptized, Bathama? What year was that? Was it 2006? I think it was 2006 you got baptized. Yeah, we started in 2004, but I think you got, oh, it was 2010. Oh, it's 2010. You got baptized? Okay, 2010. Okay, so she got baptized in 2010. Okay, yeah. So we started in 2000. So she has been recording everything from, I don't know how far back your record. It goes a long time. She was recording when I was still a Christian. I was doing all of these messages as a Christian. Yeah, and then it went from there, and so she's been with us through the whole transition. she's seen it all, right? I think she's seen it all. She's seen it all. She's been a long time, man. Long time. She's seen it all. She has stuff tape, video, audio tape from when we were Christians, when we were SDAs, when I went from the SDA church, right? And then when I started being convicted about the Israelites and the being Hebrew, she was there with that. And yeah, and I went down to, she lived in this really little town in Texas. I flew into Dallas, and I had to drive from Dallas. I think it was like an hour and something or 2 hours into this really little town that she used to live in. And we went to I think her grandson had a apartment in a complex that had a pool, right, Bathama? And then we went to that complex, and that's where she got baptized. It was a complex. Her twins. She had twins grandsons. And at that time, they was young. They was like 18 or 19. They must be grown now. And then we went and we baptized her in the complex in the pool. It was hot. I remember it was like 100 degrees, like that. It was in Texas. And yeah, that's the first and only time I went to Dallas, Texas. I was there for Baltimore. And it's the first and only time I went down to Dallas, Texas. Yeah. She's been with us from the beginning. Was he 21? Oh, I thought he was 19. Was he 21? Okay, yeah. Wow, he's 31 now. Wow. Both the twins. He has a twin brother, right? There was him and there was a twin brother. Yeah. Wow. So praise Yah. Bathaman got Brian, right? Bathaman got quite the library. And yep, praise Yah. And it's been a long time. But I praise the Most High that she stuck with me through all my craziness. And she's the twists and turns that have caused other people to be shook and loose. She has hung on. The train goes on and she has hung on. She has not let go. All the twists and turns that she caused others to be shook and loose, she's still there. Praise Yah. So thank you for playing that music from your tremendous library that you have. Praise the Most High for it. Praise the Most High for you and Sister Isha and her husband, Frankie, and praise the Most High. And yeah, so let us continue. Let's get into the word this today, the second part here, Romans 13. Let's pray. Most High Yah, we're again very grateful and thankful for your blessings upon us. Please continue, as we asked you earlier, to guide us in your word, that your name and your name alone, Yah, will be uplifted and honored and given glory through your grace that is Messiah Yahushua. We pray. Amen. Okay. Praise the Most High. So we're looking at Romans 13, and I'm gonna trip y'all out a little bit again before we get to Romans 13, because I want to go to Daniel for a second. And all that we did, part one, and this part right here is preparation. And the reason, again, we say this is because Christianity has caused us, the brainwashing of Christianity has caused us to think in the New Testament as some different Bible, right? So the New Testament is not a different Bible than the Old Testament. It does not speak a different message than the Old Testament. It's the same message. What the difference between New and Old Testament is the New Testament, instead of the blood of an animal having Israel's covenant with Yah, it's the blood of his grace Messiah, right? As Peter put in his first letter to the Israelites scattered abroad, he said, the sprinkling of the blood of Messiah. And we know from Exodus 24 that the first thing Moses did after he got the covenant was that he put the blood of an animal, he sprinkled it on the people, and he sprinkled toward the people. It was a million people, but he sprinkled it toward the people, and he sprinkled it on the covenant itself. And that represented the covenant in blood between the Most High and the chosen people. And that's why we say, brothers, this is another reason why the Most High will never forget his chosen people. He will never forget the bloodline. It's a blood covenant. You understand? It's a blood covenant. And that is why, if you notice, Messiah wasn't with no Gentiles the night he said, this wine represents the blood of the new covenant, which is the New Testament, which is his covenant with the chosen people. It's representing his spilled blood. Okay, not a Christian doctrine. This has never changed from Exodus 24. The only difference is, as we know from Hebrews, the change in the law is now the priesthood is going to Messiah. Messiah is the high priest, and he's of the tribe of Judah, not Levi, right? So that's the only change in the law. But otherwise, it's just a ratification of the same covenant. Therefore, and also the New Testament amplifies his grace Messiah as the Messiah and as the sign of the covenant between Yah and his people. His son is a sign of the covenant between the Creator and us. That's Messiah, okay? So because the Christians teach that there's two different Bibles and almost like there's two different gods, there's a soft, flowery, loving God in the New Testament, and there's a mean, arbitrary, dictatorial God in the Old Testament. Isn't that what they teach? I mean, that's how they teach it. Right? That's how they do it. They be like, this is, oh, you're keeping that old law and the Father, and it's so arbitrary and mean. In the New Testament, oh, we just love each other and we're all under grace. That's what they be teaching you. But no, it's not true. It's a lie. It's all false. It's one Bible and it's one message throughout the Bible. He doesn't change. Praise the Most High. Yah. He makes things clearer. He just makes it clear. So here in Daniel, let's look at Daniel for a second before we go into Romans. Now, if you recall, Daniel and his brothers, his Israelite brothers, were taken captivity with a whole bunch of other people. They came out of Judah. Let's look at Daniel chapter 1 from verse 1 down to verse, let's go from verse 1 down to verse 7. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And Yahweh gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of the Most High, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, in whom they might teach the learning and tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now, among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name Belteshazzar, and unto Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and unto Azariah of Abednego. Now, these are children of Judah. Notice, they were of the king's seed. They were the royal seed of Judah. Okay. And why did he pick them? He picked them because he wanted them to be in his kingdom, to be converted to be Babylonians. He made them eunuchs. And he said, you're going to be in my court. You're going to be Babylonians. I'm going to give you new names. Your name's not going to be Israelite names anymore. You're going to have Babylonian names now. And I'm going to feed you with Babylonian food. And you're going to worship Babylonian gods. Right? But they were captives in their enemy's land. And what we're going to see, they weren't going to worship no Babylonian gods. Yeah, they're going to serve the government of Babylon. They're even working the government of Babylon. But they're not going to serve no Babylonian gods. They're not going to eat no Babylonian food. Why? Because we know. See, there's certain things, brothers and sisters, that we carry with us from the land. Certain things we don't carry with us from the land. I'll give you an example. In the land, we talked about homosexuals before. In the land, sodomy is death, right? If two men commit sodomy, both of them stoned to death in the land. But now you're not in your enemy's land. You can't carry out that sentence because it's not your land. Testing 1, 2, 3. You understand? So therefore, even though we see how the Most High feels about sodomy, that situation cannot be carried out the way they would carry it out in the land because we're not in the land. Yet, the Most High said, I am Yahweh, your Most High, that have brought you out of the land of Egypt, and I have chosen you above all the people of the earth. Thou shalt eat no abominable thing. Right? So that comes with us. Now, when we first came off them slave ships, they fed us the guts of the pig. And that's the Most High also prophesied about that in Ezekiel, saying you're going to eat defiled bread in your enemy's land. But as far as in your power, you follow the commandments of Yah. See, if you're enslaved in chains, when he dragged you out to tell you to work in the fields, you're going to work in the fields, whether it's Sabbath or not, no matter what it is, because you're in your enemy's land. You understand? But when he takes the chains off, which he did, he used the Civil War to take the chains off us. And now, we can go into a store and buy food what we want to eat. We're supposed to turn back to the Most High. He's given us that space. So there's enough space. We're not free, but we can serve Yah. We can serve him. Why? Because it's the beginning of the awakening. So here, Daniel and his 3 friends were taken from their land, just like we were taken. These are our fathers. These are our ancestors. And their names were changed, just like our names was changed to Smith and Jones and Jackson, right? And Robinson and Jefferson and Washington. Our names were changed. Their names were changed. The difference between us and them, is we don't know what our original names was. They knew who their original name was. You understand? They knew who their original name was. But we don't know who our original names are. They took our names from us and gave us Smith, Jones, Robinson, Johnson, all of these names. That's not where we come from. But let's continue reading. Chapter 1, from verse 8 down to verse, from verse 8 down to verse 17. Daniel chapter 1, from verse 8 to 17. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now the Most High had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my master the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are after your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants. And he consented to him in this matter, and it proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. As for these 4 children, the Most High gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Okay, let's stop here for a second. What was wrong with the king's meat? It wasn't prepared the way they have been taught to prepare food. You understand? When they killed an animal, they drained all the blood. They cut the fat off the animal. They boiled the animal in a pot to get the blood out of it before they ate the flesh. Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon didn't go through all that. Matter of fact, we know even from today, when people eat a steak, the redder it is, the more they like it. Isn't that true? The redder it is, when they see the blood, they say, oh, it's good. It's medium rare. I don't like our steak well done. I like it medium rare, they say, right? Because they want to see the blood. Well, Daniel wasn't going to eat that. They weren't going to eat that. They'd be eating blood. You understand? Testing 1, 2, 3. So he said, to avoid that, just give us, Paul says vegetation. Give us vegetation and water, man. And forget that wine. They have to be prepared the way the Hebrews prepared it, but they were in Babylon. So he said, give us, and it wasn't, I used to teach this differently. I used to say, well, they became vegetarians because vegetarian was the healthiest way to go. I used to teach that. But the truth is, their food, their vegetarian food that they were eating was healthier because it's better than eating blood. The Most High doesn't want us eating the animal fat or blood. He said that in his word, okay? So he will bless, and in fact, that's what the Bible does say. He will bless, when you eat right, he will bless your food. It says that. Let me show you that scripture. Deuteronomy chapter 4, I believe it is. Deuteronomy chapter 4, I believe it's 4:13, if I'm not mistaken. Deuteronomy 4:13. No. Hold on. Maybe it's 13. Hang on 1 second. Bear with me, brothers and sisters. I'll find it. Hold on. Man, I can't find it. Shoot. I thought it was 4:13. Hold on 1 second. Hang on. I thought it was in chapter 4, though. Deuteronomy, bear with me 1 second. I'm going to have to look at my coins. You know I got to find it now. I can't give up on it. I can't give up on it. Like the pit bull, man. Once I got my jaws on it, I gotta get it. So hang on 1 second. Let me find it. Hang on 1 second. Let me find it. Hold on. It is, I know it's Deuteronomy for sure, but I just need to find out where. I thought it was chapter 4. Let me see here. So you can see we don't take notes beforehand to do these things. Anyway, I'm gonna find it right now. It's Deuteronomy. (7:15). That's interesting. 7:15. Deuteronomy 7. Let's take a look here. Notice what it says here. Okay, here it is. Well, okay, here it is. Well, this is not the exact one I wanted, but notice it says, Deuteronomy 7:15. It says, and Yahweh will take away from thee all sickness, and will put none of the evil disease of Egypt which thou knowest upon thee, and will lay them upon all them that hate thee. Okay, but that's not exactly the one I was looking for, but that says the same point. So he says he's going to take sickness, but it also says he will bless the water and their food. So when you are obeying the Most High, he will bless your food. You know, that's why we pray, we bless the food before we eat it. Well, that comes from the word, because the word, he says he's going to bless your food. And he's going to use your food to make you healthy, but you got to be obedient to him in what you're eating. Okay, so Daniel wasn't going to eat blood. And so the Most High blessed the food that he ate that didn't have the blood in it. And he caused them to be healthier than the people that were eating the blood and drinking the king's wine. All right. So that's what the point I'm making here. And so again, let's go back to Daniel chapter 1. And then we saw that at the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier because the Most High was blessing them. And then he blessed them, and he blessed Daniel even further in understanding visions and dreams. They also had understanding of science. See, science is not something that man has created. Science is the study of nature. That's what science really is. It's a study of nature. And Daniel and the Hebrews had an understanding of the study of nature, understanding of it that people didn't have. See, because the Most High blessed them. Let's continue. Daniel chapter 1 from verse 18 to verse 21. Notice Daniel 1, 18 to 21. Now, at the end of the days, the king had said that the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the princes of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the first year of Cyrus the king. So here that was the rest of Daniel chapter 1. Daniel 1, we read from where we stopped. We stopped at verse 17, so we read from 18 to 21. Okay, that's what we read. We said from 18 to 21. So he found these four Hebrew boys 10 times better because the Most High was blessing them because of their obedience in Babylon. Okay, now let's continue. Looking at Daniel chapter 4, we know the story. Daniel chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar built, Daniel 3, Nebuchadnezzar built a statue and he wanted everybody to worship the statue. Now, Daniel wasn't mentioned in Daniel chapter 3. He must not have been around, but his 3 friends are mentioned. And now they're serving in Babylon. In other words, if it was today, they would be working for the government, okay? These 3, including Daniel, would be working because Nebuchadnezzar was the government. So they'd be working for the government at this time. Now, in their work for the government, they were commanded to appear at this dedication of an image that Nebuchadnezzar had made. But now it turned into a worship service whereby Nebuchadnezzar not only wanted them to be there, but he wanted them all to bow down to this image. Now, that's where he crossed the line. They were okay. They came into Babylon as servants. They were in their enemy's land. They became eunuchs, weren't going to have no children. Okay. He made them eunuchs, and they served him in the government. But then he asked them to do something against their God. And no matter what land they were in, they weren't going to break that covenant. All right? They weren't going to do it. So Daniel chapter 3, notice again, Daniel chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 4 and go down to verse 12. Daniel 3, 4 to 12. Daniel chapter 3 from verse 4 to 12. Notice what it says. Then an herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king hath set up. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Israelites. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, he should be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Israelites whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Now, brothers and sisters, this is a prelude to the mark of the beast. I want you to notice, here's Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the world at that time, the world leader, the government of the earth. It's a one world government. Testing 1, 2, 3. It's a one world government, and he's the head of this one world government. What does he do? He makes a statue. Obviously, it's in his image. And he demands that everybody worship this statue in the image. Why? Because if you bow down to Nebuchadnezzar's image, what did you just do? You just bowed down to Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? If you bow down to Nebuchadnezzar's image, you just bow down to Nebuchadnezzar. Everybody, we read Daniel chapter 3. We read from verse 4 to verse 12. That's what we just did. Daniel 3, 4 to 12. Daniel chapter 3 from verse 4 to verse 12. All right, you got that, Isha? So he demanded that everybody worship. This is a prelude to the mark of the beast. Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 3. Daniel. Yeah, it's Skippy. Okay, maybe that's why she's having trouble. It's Daniel chapter 3 from verse 4 to 12. Yeah. Yeah. So what was I saying? So anyway, he wanted them to worship this image, and in so doing, they were worshiping him. In Revelation chapter 13, they want the earth, the United States wants the earth to worship an image to the beast. So that if you're worshiping the image, you're also worshiping the beast. And if you're worshiping the beast, you're worshiping the dragon. That's Revelation 13. The same scenario is going to break forth. It's not going to be a physical statue that everybody's bowing down to, but it's going to be a system made in the image of the system of Rome. Okay? Same exact situation in terms of what the purpose is. The purpose is to get people to worship the dragon instead of Yah. Okay, and to break Yah's covenant in worshiping the dragon. Now, Nebuchadnezzar wanted these three Hebrew boys to do that, and of course, we know they did not do that. So where does that bring us in Romans chapter 13? Okay, Romans 13, where does that bring us? It shows us how we are to interact with the governments we are with, okay? We're not fighting against the government. We're not plotting against the government, all right? We're working with the government as far as possible, unless they ask us to break the covenant with Yah. We will not break Yah's covenant for anybody. And while we're in our enemy's land, he has caused the chains to be taken off of most of us, though we still have our brothers in chains, in jails and stuff, but he has taken, and it's enough so that we can eat the way he told us to eat. We can worship the way he told us to worship. We can keep his covenant and his dietary laws, even in our enemy's land. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, we can now keep his laws in our enemy's land. And that's why I believe he allowed that to take place. He allowed that civil war to take us out of the chains so that we can obey his covenant. We can now break free from all of the Babylonian heathen ways of eating and worshiping, and we can come back to him. That's why there's been this delay from 1844 to now. And that's why the awakening is now underway, teaching us to do with his will. Now, we cannot keep the feast because we only keep the feast in the land, which we're going to be in the land. But we can keep the covenant like Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah did. We can eat right like Daniel did. You don't have to eat blood. We can choose to eat what we're supposed to eat. We can choose to prepare the food the way he has taught us in Deuteronomy. Isn't that correct? Testing 1, 2, 3, the way he taught us. He said, the swine is unclean. It's abominable unto you. Don't eat the swine. Don't eat the rat. Don't eat the rabbit. Don't eat any fish that doesn't have fins and scales. Don't ever eat the blood. So don't be asking for medium rare. You don't want to eat the blood. Okay? Get that blood out of there. Cut the fat off. Okay? Get the lean meat. I know the keto diet talks about eating as much fat as possible, but you don't have to eat the fat of the animal. You can eat fat from avocados, oils, nuts, seeds, right? Butter. Plenty of fat to eat. You don't have to eat the meat with fat on it. Okay? You don't have to do that. And you definitely don't have to eat the blood. Okay? So now, all of this takes us to, now we can go to Romans chapter 13. Romans chapter 13. Because now we understand. Let me just give you, I want to make sure, we're having all kind of audio issues apparently today. Can you please type a 1 if you can hear me? Can you type a 1? Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. All right, good. All right. So we understand. Now, let me ask you some quiz questions. Here's some quiz questions. Ready? Here's quiz question. Quiz question number 1. Why are we scattered about the earth? Why is the Israelite nation not in one place and scattered all over the earth? Why are we scattered? Now we did 2 lessons on this morning. I should hear some right answers. Why are we scattered? That's right, because of disobedience, because our fathers and us disobeyed our disobeyed Yah, and he scattered us all over the earth. Okay, so we're in our enemies' lands and we're scattered all over the earth. How do we change that situation? How do we change that situation? That's right, because we went after other gods. That's right. That's right. Turn back to the Father and keep his commandments, statutes, and judgments. So it doesn't matter what governments are doing in the lands that we're in, but our repentance toward our Father will cause us to be delivered. Our repentance toward our Father and our turning back to obedience and a repentance of our sins and the sins of our fathers that got us in this mess, that will cause everything to turn around. That will cause everything to turn around. Okay, all right, I'm glad we understand that. Now let's go to Romans chapter 13. Romans chapter 13. Let us begin reading from verse 1 down to verse 7 of Romans chapter 13, from 1 to 7. Romans 13, 1 to 7. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of Yahweh, and the powers that be are ordained of Yahweh. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of Yahweh. And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is a minister of Yahweh to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is a minister of Yahweh, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doth evil. Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are Yahweh's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom is due, fear to whom fear is due, honor to whom honor is due. So you see, we are to obey the laws. We are to not be unruly and try to make ruckus in society. We are, why? Because we are seeking to serve our Father in our enemy's land. This is their land. This is their. Now, even though in the United States of America, the Caucasians took the land from the Indians, they did take it though. And so now it's their land. They took it. They killed, raped, pillaged, and took the land. So now we're in our enemy's land and we try to obey the law as far as possible. But as we saw with the 3 Hebrew boys, if the government tries to force us to worship another God, to break the covenant with our God, that's where the line is drawn. We cannot do that. Testing 1, 2, 3. You understand? We cannot do that. So there are some people on the earth right now that are in that position. See, in the United States, we're not in that position yet. Not yet. In China, though, they are, right? In China, it's against the law to serve Yah the way we serve him. They would put you in a camp and say you have to be re-educated. They try to brainwash you, right? And it's interesting. My wife and I were talking about this today. No matter what the political system is, because of the corruption of human beings and sin, no matter how fair it appears, it will always end up being unfair because of sin. So that in capitalism, people work around the rules to monopolize money, monopolize corporation, monopolize everything, and cause people to suffer that don't have. right? That's the capitalism. In communism, commune is supposed to mean to share everything. That's what communism is supposed to be. It means an equal sharing of everything with everybody. That's what's supposed to be. But what do we have in China? We have the government, still a small group of people at the top, controlling the consciousness of all the people in their society, punishing them if they want to leave, right? So it started off sounding all nice and fair, everybody sharing everything, but at the end, it's still the same as the United States. It's just a different way. So in the United States, you have a small group of people at the top, they have bought their way and bribed their way and their way to the top. And then in communist China, you got the opposite, but you still got a small group of people at the top controlling everybody and trying to control their conscience. And why? It's not the system. It's not whether it's capitalism, communism, socialism, fascism. It's the people. No matter how fair you try to make the system, greedy and sinful people are always going to find ways around it. You follow me? Testing 1, 2, 3. That's always going to be the case. So, brothers and sisters, because communist China is trying to afflict the conscience of the people, their system is doomed to fail. It's doomed to fail. Okay? And the United States is going to follow suit with the Pope of Rome, controlling everything soon. Okay, system's doomed to fail. All right, let's continue. Verse 8. I want this separated by itself for a purpose. Romans chapter 13 and verse 8. Romans 13:8. Notice what it says. Romans chapter 13 and verse 8. Owe no man anything but to love one another. For he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. Now, this is deep. We're not supposed to have debt. But we're in a country that is run by debt. Isn't that true? The United States of America would not exist if it wasn't for debt, which tells you it's also doomed to fail. Okay. Everybody in the United States, has debt. If you have a car, if you have a house, if you rent an apartment, you owe your landlord. As long as you owe somebody something, you're in debt. And the system is set up so we're continually in debt. But the Bible is telling us to not have any debt. How are we going to accomplish that? Well, first we try our best. It's difficult, but we try our best to reduce our debt as much as we can or eliminate it if possible, right? But the day is coming where it won't matter when they take away all our stuff. They take away all our ability to work. They take away all our benefits. Then we won't owe anybody anything. We'll be gone then. That's coming. But we try to stay away from debt. Owe nobody nothing but love. You heard that saying, I got nothing but love for you. Yes, that's where it comes from right here. Owe no man anything but love, as much as possible. Like I said, it's difficult. So don't feel bad. The system is set up for you to borrow. That's what I'm saying. I don't kill myself over debt right now. I don't like it. I try to avoid it, but I don't kill myself over it. The system is set up like that. This system is designed on debt and designed to put people in debt, which means it's designed to make people slaves. That's what the system is. It's designed like that. And you got to remember that. That's how this system is. Free as it be, is designed to put people in slavery and debt. It is. Really is. Okay? Let's continue. Daniel chapter 13 from verse 9 down to verse 14. Actually, from 9 down to verse 12. Start that. For this thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet. If there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law, in that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. The night is far spent. The day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. Now we know, let me give you, here's another quiz question. Give me a word for the term, the armor of light. What is the armor of light? And what is that term? The one word that can be used to, notice what it says, how it's written there. It's saying, put on, it's something you wear. Put on the armor of light. Now, yes, that's exactly right. The Father's Spirit of perfect righteousness. So I can say righteousness, I can say spirit, but it's righteousness, right? Exactly. Put on the armor of light. That is the Father's righteousness, his set apart spirit. And so what he's saying here is wherever you are, however you live and be faithful to the Father's righteousness and show the love to your neighbors. Your neighbors can be Hindu. Your neighbors could be Muslim. Your neighbors could be Catholic. Your neighbors could be Ashkenaz, right? Now, show the spirit of the Father to your neighbors. Testing 1, 2, 3. Everybody understand that? Because we in our enemy's land. Remember, the Bible said that Daniel had found favor with the prince of the eunuchs. That was the Father's spirit on Daniel. Don't ever think it's because of somebody's personality that they're just liked better if they serve the Father. It's the Father's spirit that goes before us. His light goes before us and blesses our way. That's how this thing works. And so we want to show the Father's light to as many people as we can by his spirit. Why? Well, if I was a Christian, I'd say, well, then you could bring him in the church, right? Right? If I was a Christian, I would say, well, you want to be, remember when I first moved to this place I'm in? Man, this lady came running down the sidewalk. Hi, my name is so-and-so. Can we help you with your stuff? Can we help you put your stuff in your house? And I was like, oh, that's so nice of you. And she was a Mormon. And her whole purpose was to get us to come to the Mormon church, to get us to read the Book of Mormon. That was her whole purpose. She kept coming, baking us stuff and doing all kind of stuff for us and knocking on our door and asking about our kids. Because her purpose was to bring us into Mormonism. And then when I told her we wasn't interested, she had somebody from her church knock on our door. See, that's a nefarious, that's an evil thing. Church is not going to bring salvation to anybody. Maybe she thought it would, obviously. But see, we're not doing it to bring anybody into church. We're doing it to show forth the Father's Spirit. And the Father's Spirit, through his grace Messiah, will bring people where? Bring people to himself. Not to any church or denomination or club or camp. Bring people to himself. To be obedient to his commandments. That's the object, right? That's the object. So he's telling us, and notice he listed the last 6 commandments of the covenant. That's what he did. He listed the last, in verse 9, he listed the last 6 commandments of the covenant. Why? Because the first 4 commandments point to our obedience to the Father. The last 6 point to our love for our neighbor. That's how the commandments are broken up. If you look at the last 6, it's our interaction with each other. The first 4, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Thou shalt not take the name of Yahweh in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. All of those are our obligation directly to the Father. The last 6 are our obligation to each other. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Honor thy father and thy mother. Thou shalt not steal, bear false witness, or covet, right? All of those things, thou shalt not kill, or how we handle one another. So he gave us those commandments in this section of the letter. And he says, it's briefly comprehended, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So in doing that, we are obedient to that part of the covenant, which means we will be obedient to all the covenant because we want the Father's light to shine. The Father's light. Amen. So, and we understand we're in our enemy's land. We understand that this land is going to be destroyed. We understand that. That's not changing anything. But at the same time, while we're here, okay, we show forth the Father. Testing 1, 2, 3. The day's going to come when they're going to force our hand like they did for Daniel and his 3 friends. They're going to force our hand and cause us to stand forth and disobey their law in order to keep covenant. They're going to force us to do that. That's what Mark of the Beast is all about. It's a forcing of Yah's people to come forth and stand for the truth against everybody. That's what's going to happen. Okay? That's what's going to happen. Let's finish the chapter. Romans chapter 13, verses 13 and 14. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering or wantonness, not in strife and envying, but put ye on the Master, Yahushua, the Messiah, and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. There you go. So we're wearing Messiah. We're putting on the armor of light, which Messiah is a representation, his grace of the Father's righteousness, right? So we're putting on the Father's righteousness. We're showing that to the earth wherever we are. We're standing firm for the Father, for his honor and his glory. Not for us. He said, don't worry about wantonness, drunkenness, rioting, chambering, strife, envy. That's man. We're not serving man. We're serving the Father. Our goal is not for us to be uplifted. See, not when he say make not provision for the flesh, your goal is not for you to be uplifted. It's for your Father to be uplifted and honored and given glory. Why? Because that was Messiah's example to us. Messiah always lived for his Father. He said, I'm not teaching you nothing except what I heard from the Father. I'm not showing you anything except my Father's will. I'm only wanting to do my Father's will. That's all he kept saying. That was his message. Okay, his Father's righteousness, his Father's will. That was his message, to bear witness, to bear testimony of his Father's righteousness. And so that's what he's telling us. Don't make provision for the flesh. Don't try to, lift yourself up. Lift up the Father. Give Father honor and glory. And that alone, you will differentiate yourself from everybody else on the earth. From that alone, you'll differentiate yourself, because it's going to be real. It's his spirit. It's a spirit of righteousness that's going to cause you to uplift him, that's going to cause people to see it. Your neighbors, I don't care what belief they have, what church they go to. If they're interested in truth, they're going to notice you. They're going to notice you. And like the young man I talked to earlier this week, happened to be a Caucasian man, they're going to ask questions. And that's all good. You're not trying to bring them to no church. You're trying to bring them to the Father. Praise Yah. Praise Yah. All right. Let's have a word of prayer. Most High Yahweh, we're again very thankful, very grateful that you made provision through your grace, Messiah, to teach us the way we should go, even in our enemy's land. Please continue to guide us. Direct us by your light. Cause your name alone to be uplifted and honored and glorified wherever we are, wherever we be on this planet, to the kingdom of Yahweh Shah come. In the name of Messiah, Yahweh Shah, your grace, we pray. Amen. Praise the Most High.